Well, if it wasn't for Chris, we wouldn't do this because I'm about a technological zero. Yeah, I can do emails. They force me on to, I got Facebook going on now. You know, we got a new website, and they said, you got to have Facebook. And I'm like, all right. So I do that now. So if anybody wants to go on, if they do the Facebook thing, and we got a Big Woods Bucks, we got a page on that, I guess, where you get fans and all that stuff, or likes or whatever they call them. And then I got my own page. And tell you the truth, I don't know how it works, because if I post something on my page, it doesn't go to the Big Woods. But if I post something on Big Woods, sometimes it goes to my page. I don't know. Maybe you guys are more techie than me. So anyways, welcome. And I know they had scheduled this, and there's Jim and Joe are doing another one. It's too bad the scheduling where there's two deer hunting ones at once. Everybody had to make a choice where they wanted to be, but you're here, so I hope we give you what you want. And we've changed this up. I try to keep, keeping the seminar fresh, because, anybody been to one of mine before? First time. A few of yous? Okay. So I got some new stuff. We thought of some new ideas, because we try to teach people, about the big woods and hunting there, and give you some tips. How many people already hunt in the big woods? Great. All right. That's probably why you're here, get a little more knowledge. Hopefully we can help you with that. And how about that rub right there? It looks like a signpost. Yeah, it's not really a signpost. We're going to get into that, but it's a brown ash. And you can see how high his points were hitting when he was rubbing here. Points were hitting way up here. That might indicate he might have some tine length, I think, or something, along beams. So come on in. And but anyways, that was a picture taken this year. That was up in Ontario, actually, during early muzzleloader season there. Okay, here's an announcement. I've been doing some things with Remington lately, and now got on the pro staff, a senior pro staff, I guess they call it, and Chris is on the pro staff too, and I think it's going to be kind of exciting to work with him. I've always pretty much hunted with Remingtons, and I've hunted with the 7600 for, it's been pretty near 30 years now, or 25 or 30, and I had 700s and all of that stuff, but a lot of you use Remington, so you know what I mean. It's always been a great company and make a good product. And so anyways, we're doing some things with Remington. I'm going out to the SHOT Show next week and do some things out there. But I think it's going to be fun. Here's some big woods. Just a nice picture. That's what we're going to talk about. And here's a big woods buck. Now this buck comes down, I feed him every winter. He's been here 3 years. I feed a bunch of deer behind my place, behind my lodge. Don't know where the heck he goes in the fall, but he's not around. And that just kind of shows you, they come from a long ways to get their wintering areas. So here he is in 2008, 3 years ago. This was last year in 2009. Got a nice drop point there and a couple of stickers. Heavier rack. Here he is this year. This was taken a couple weeks ago. He's 14 points now. And actually in my area, non-typicals are fairly rare, especially drop points. Very rarely anybody shoots a drop point one. And, but he's quite a buck. You can see how heavy his rack is, and he's also big. He probably I think he weighs 275 dressed, probably. He stands, I've got probably 7 or 8 bucks that come there, and there's over 200, and he stands 6 inches right over the other ones. He's just, probably stands 4 feet right at the shoulder. Yeah, he's a nice one. That's the ones your dreams are made of, right? Yeah. You shoot one like that, you might as well quit hunting. It's all over. No, you got to keep chasing them. What I want to talk about is, because I've been thinking about this, guiding a lot and trying to teach people how to hunt, and I get a lot of questions from you guys. This is a big question, right? How do you find these deer in the big woods, right? Because the big woods is big. Deer densities are fairly low. So we got to try to break down the big woods into smaller pieces, right? Little manageable chunks. And so that's what we want to talk about a little bit and how I do it. Got some young people coming in. Remind me about the gifts. We'll get going here. We got to give out some of them. And we only got an hour to do this, so it's going to be hurried a little bit. You know, I got a lot of stuff to go through. And we usually do a little question and answer thing, but I think some of you was up in that symposium and got some questions. So we got a little video clip I took this year of the buck I showed. You rather see that than do questions at the end? Yeah, it's about 5-6 minutes, whatever. Okay, good. We'll do that. Topographical maps and navigation. You got to know that if you're going to be comfortable to hunt in the big woods, because most people, we talked about it up in the other symposium, they don't get in the woods very far, right? Quarter mile, maybe a half a mile. People just don't get in the woods, and why is that? Fear? You think it's maybe fear of getting lost or whatever? Sure it is. If you're afraid of getting lost or you don't know where you are or you're not sure, you're not going to hunt right, are you? Yeah, well, old age, yeah, maybe that's why you don't get too far, old age. But if you're not comfortable in the big woods, you're not going to hunt like you need to. You know, you're going to get on a track maybe and you get a mile from a road and, geez, all of a sudden you're getting nervous, it's noontime, and you might turn around. But if you're comfortable in the woods, you know how to read a compass, you know which way to get out, you'll hunt better. You'll be more comfortable. It's like you're going to kind of get set free, right? You know, you don't have nothing to worry about but trying to hunt for that buck you're after. So it's important to learn this, whether you've got to get a book and study it, map and compass, whatever, but really learn it. I know everybody can take a compass and say, yeah, is north, is south, and east and west, but if you can't put a map and a compass together and find a direction out, you're still going to be nervous probably. I use topographical maps in new areas. I mean, I've hunted my area so much, I don't really need them anymore. But I did in the beginning. Everywhere, every new place I wanted to go, I got the topo map. I studied it at home, I looked at it, decided where I wanted to check first, and I carried it with me. And it was handy a lot of times. I might get back several miles back in. Hey, maybe it was an easier way to get out than the way I come in. It's getting late in the day. You got your map, you can look at it, orientate it, check your compass, take a bearing, get out. So this is just an example. It's a map of our area. And what I do is if I'm going to go to a new area, I'll get the map for the area. I cross-reference it sometimes with that DeLorme Atlas maps. They have them now for all the states because a lot of these old trails you'll see on here, they call them Jeep trails and stuff. Sometimes that road has been rebuilt. It might be a road you can drive on now. So you always got to check that. You don't want to walk in 2 miles in the woods and come to a gravel road you could have drove there on, right? So that's part of your scouting. But I take the map and I start looking. If I'm going to go in a new place, I check the water, streams, anywhere wet areas, because I'm looking for brown ash, for signposts. And somewhere along the way, deer is going to cross the water, right? Somewhere they're going to cross. They get from one place to another. And usually, especially if you've got a bigger stream or something, they get funneled into certain crossings, and they like to cross certain places. So I'm looking for those places, and sometimes I'll find a signpost there. I'm also looking for these saddles up in these ridges, okay? Deer normally travel the path of least resistance. They travel where they travel probably for long as the deer have been in the woods. And it's always, you can almost look at a topo map and say, there should be a trail here, there should be a trail there, if you know what you're doing. You always go look at it and then check. If you find a saddle like this with 2 knobs and you don't find a deer trail or where deer are traveling through there ain't many deer in the area. Because that's the only way to get, say if that ridge, I don't know what it is on the map, but if it's a mile long, they're going to go through there to get the other side. So check those places. And they're good places to check to pick up a track or whatever, if you want to sit. Maybe a lot of times in those funnels, they'll make a scrape, right? Because it funnels the does through there too. Good place for a scrape. Okay, that's the stuff I look for. But anyways, get familiar with topo maps. And I know these new Atlas maps you can get, they've got topography on them too. They've got these contour lines, which is elevation. That tells you about the area. Anytime you see these in the north, they're basically 20-foot intervals. You know, every 20 feet there's a dark line, so you know you can see the steeper country. Closer the lines are together, the steeper it is. There's a lot to learn on one of those maps. But I suggest if you get a map and get good with map and compass, you won't be afraid to get in the woods, if you even are. And on these maps, and even in the woods, whether you have a map, it's important to know some of the things about logging, because that's what there is in the big woods, basically, is logging. I know you get over in the Adirondacks and stuff, and they don't log, and that's a different situation. But for the most part, you're going to have some type of logging that has gone on over the last 150 years. You might see an old cart road where they used to go with horse and wagons or oxen or something. You'll still see those roads in the woods where they built them with a pick and axe, or old truck roads from 50, 60 years ago when they just brought the wood out in little straight box trucks and stuff. Those are still in the woods. Great places to walk on, good places, easy access, get in and out on those roads, good place to drag one out. In skid roads where they bring the wood out to a road, typically you're going to be, if you're in a skidder road where they brought wood with a skidder, you're probably only a half a mile from a main road. See, all this stuff will help you not be as nervous. You know, if you come out, if you're in a cut where they skidded wood out, basically you don't need to be nervous because you ain't very far from being out. You can walk out on a half a mile on a skidder trail in, you know, 15 minutes and be out, you know, out to the road. So just understand these things, and it's just going to help you be more comfortable in the woods. Game trails too. I like to walk on game trails. Why? That's where the game walks. The moose beat down a lot of trails, especially over in Maine. You know, we got tons of moose, but the deer walk on them too. Why? The moose have kept them open, and it's, especially if they log and it grows back up slash, the moose start taking a certain route and nothing grows. That's where the deer will normally walk too. In the big open hardwoods or other places, there's always game trails established. You might not be able to follow them like in some woods, but anytime they get near a crossing on a stream, one of those funnels, you'll be able to pick up the traces of a game trail. That's how you're going to break down that big woods into a little bit smaller territory and hunt where you should be hunting, you know. And don't waste your time. Anybody ever keep hunting a spot they shot a buck at 10 years ago, thinking there's still another one around? Yeah, a lot of guys do that. And just because, you know, a lot of times the way they cut in the north woods, it changes the dynamics of the woods. A lot of times they'll even cut the signpost down, and that's the end of it, you know. It changes the way the deer travel, especially the bucks. They're more secluded and secretive. So don't waste your time where there's no sign. Get out of there, move through it. Scout an area. If there's no sign, don't stay there. I don't care if you've shot 5 deer in the same spot. If you go in there and there's no sign, go somewhere else, right? Or you're wasting your time. I think lately people, that's happened to, when we had a couple of bad winters there a few years ago, people would go back to where they'd hunted. Even our locals that, you know, up in Jackman, you know, gee, there ain't no deer around, because they're going back and trying to hunt where they always did. Well, those deer, something happened to them, you know. Some of them died off. Whatever. They ain't there. Don't waste your time. Go find a new spot. I always try to keep several places ahead, new places every year, because I know I'm going to lose something, right? They're going to come in and cut an area. And usually for me what happens, because I like to hunt when nobody else does, they'll build a road back into some place I walked into and start logging it, and guess what? Everybody comes. Everybody drives. They're attracted to those new logging operations. When they do that, I just leave anyway because I don't want to hunt around. I know other people are going to be there. So I'll lose a place, but I always got the next place that I've checked out and it looks good, and I keep going there. It might be a place, I got a lot of places I like to hunt, high elevation, medium, low. And obviously earlier in the season, the higher elevation gets the snow quickest. Well, that's why I go early. I go up in them places early, then I might not, once there's snow down in some other country, I might not go back there. I might like this other place better, but I have enough places scouted out where I can, you know, change around. Don't get stuck in one spot. You never know. A lot of times if you hunt the same spot, you hunt it the same way, right? And you miss a lot. If you keep hunting the same spot, I'm guilty of it, go travel the same way all the time, and you end up missing something else along the way. So don't be afraid to keep moving around, keep looking around. Okay, rubs. I think, to me, a rub is the most important sign that a buck makes. Everybody puts a lot of emphasis on the scrapes, and yeah, they're great. But a lot of times the scrapes are going to be made where the does are that year. That don't mean the next year there's going to be the same thing going on. And quite often, they'll make a scrape and never come back to it. I call those really porrings, you know. Everybody might identify them as a scrape, but I put a more emphasis on the rubs, because the rubs are going to tell you a little bit more about how many bucks might be in the area, which direction they travel, how they overlap, things like that. And there's three types of rubs. I feel there's three types anyways. And the first one is the hookins. I call them hookings, and then common rubs and signpost rubs. Talk a little bit about each one. And here's a hookin. It's just a buck will come along and kind of thrash his horns, and usually it's a willow or something brushy. And they do it usually when they're frustrated or, you know, getting towards a rut. When they get around a doe and they're searching, they'll rub this brush. No questions and answers. Okay, sorry. We just don't have time. Okay. Yeah, I hope I cover what you want, but we got to get through. I'll ask you later. Yeah, good. Yeah, anybody wants to come to the booth after and ask questions, that's fine. I don't put a lot of faith in this, because that buck may never walk through there again. There might have been a doe he smelt in there and he got frustrated and hooked his horns. Tells you there was one around. These are the common rubs. Everybody's seen them, right? That one's on a yellow birch. This one here is on a fir tree. Tells me a couple things. The direction that buck's traveling, right? They're going to rub on the side of the tree the direction they're traveling. They're going to turn around, rub it, and then turn around and walk. Tells you which way that buck's traveling. Usually they travel through their territory, pretty much the same direction. Once the rut starts, we know everything's off. Tells me that. If I see a rub on both sides of the tree, usually means it's a different buck. One went one way, one went the other. Not always. But I just kind of file these things away. Then how many of these rubs I find in an area might tell me how many bucks might be around. I also look at how high the rub is from the ground. Some bucks rub lower. A lot of bucks always seem to rub low. Some rub high, different size bucks, just the way their horns are, whatever it is. But usually a buck makes a similar rub on another tree. You can almost identify it. Sometimes you see good digs like this. He's got some burrs. He's digging that. He's going to dig that on another tree, right? So here we go again. We had this problem yesterday. Should have brought our own projector, and the bulb heats up and flicks out. I'll keep going anyway so we don't lose any time. So those rubs will tell you a lot about what you've got going on for amount of bucks or whatever. Obviously, the more rubs you see, probably the more bucks in the area, more competition. I have found buck sign usually corresponds with the amount of does, and it's opposite what you think. The less does there are, the more rubs you'll see and more buck sign. Why is that? More competition, right? Those bucks are competing more for the fewer does. When there's a lot of does around and not a lot of bucks, they don't have to make a lot of sign. There's plenty of does for them, right? I noticed that after we had those couple of bad winters, believe it or not, there was twice the buck sign as there was a few previous years, especially before the season. It was unbelievable, but that's the way it was because those bucks were staking their territory because they wanted the does, what few there were, you know, there was fewer does in the area, so there was, you know, wanting more territory. And the other type of rub, you'll see a picture, is the signpost rub. And that, to me, is what I'm always looking for when I scout an area. If I go through an area and up our way, it's going to be brown ash. You've got it in northern Vermont, Adirondacks, New Hampshire, northern tier. Brown ash, probably 90% of the rubs, signpost rubs, will be on these brown ash. So learn how to identify that tree, right? Yep, it's an ash tree and it grows in the wet ground. And here's what they look like. And the bucks will start rubbing these brown ash when they're big around as a quarter, maybe real small, and they'll rub them year after year, and you'll see, there's no questions. And you'll see where the bark is healed and the tree's trying to grow, and the next year, you can see it real well in this one. You can see it here. There's some that's brighter, and you can see the dark ones. That's a key place to find your buck sign, all of that stuff. And that's where they're gonna, a lot of times they'll overlap. Bucks will come in and there might be 2 or 3 bucks rubbing that same signpost. It's a communication point. So what's that tell you? It's a good place, right? That's how you narrow down your big woods. When you find these, if you find one of these and a half a mile away there's another one and a mile away there's another one, you can almost take your map and make a route of how those bucks might travel through there, right? So play around with that a little bit. I think it'll help you out. Here's one here Chris found last fall down in Rhode Island. Who'd have thought, right? Because it's a monster. That's right. It's on an oak tree. Well, they don't have brown ash down there. It's going to be on something else. They'll rub them. They'll make them on red cedar. This one happens to be on an oak. But you can see that's flattened right to the center, so it was rubbed since it was a little tiny tree. So they got pretty good bucks in Rhode Island too. This was on a big piece of woods, I guess. And so you can find them. They're in your woods wherever you hunt. So find them. I think he's got another one on here somewhere. There's another one that's just getting started. And was that on an oak too, Chris? Yep. Another oak down there. Evidently the bucks like to signpost on those oak. And there's a picture of the brown ash. It's an ash with a kind of a corky brown bark. But the key to it, if you're hunting up north, more in the big woods, you got to look in the wet ground. That's why I always walk streams and spring seeps up through the ridges, around cedar bogs, beaver bogs. That's where you'll find it growing. So that's more likely where you're going to find something that's signpost. There might be one big signpost rub up in the middle of a hardwood ridge somewhere, but it'll be in a wet spot. If you don't find any, you find a lot of brown ash in your area and you're not finding any rubs or signpost rubs, there ain't many bucks around there. There really isn't. You know, they have to make some kind of or I would say there wouldn't be many dominant bucks there. If you've got an area like I know Vermont has been traditionally, you know, 90% of the deer kills been small bucks, yielding bucks, you're not going to find that kind of sign. You're going to find this stuff where you've got a good population of mature bucks. Here's a pretty good one here. And this here was, I took this picture at the end of October before the season. Even though it was a little snow, it was the end of October. And that's the same signpost a month later. I think. Been some bucks pounding on that, right? Might be able to pick up a track there. Guys that like to sit might want to sit there, right? Something might come by that. And this one here, you can't see the other side, but several bucks were using. I've actually got some trail camera pictures. They're not very good because I had the camera too far, but I've got 2 different big 8-pointers coming to that. One always came one direction, one always came the other. It's the way they travel. What do you think? He's in action right there. Yeah, he's coming up. I got 4 pictures of this buck coming up, and he's smelling it, putting a little scent there, and then he smells it again and walks away. checking that. There's that same buck. A week later, we get after him. Okay, you ever ask yourself that? How come some hunters are more consistent year after year? Well, they possess them common characteristics. I call them the 3 Ps. And it's practice, patience, and persistence. And I've been kind of trying to teach this the last few years because I've talking to so many people, that's what I find out. People give up too quick. Not just hunting, everything in life in general, right? You know, it's easier to give up on things and keep going. You know, you can give yourself 100 reasons why you got to leave the woods. It's raining or it's snowing or wind's blowing, whatever it is. You can talk yourself out of anything. But it's pretty hard to shoot them back at camp, you know. So you want to practice. Everybody thinks of practice as, you know, being able to shoot straight. Well, that's true. Be familiar with your weapon, whatever it is. Learn how to shoot it. Be familiar with it. And make it an extension of you, you know, where you can get the job done. And you got to have patience because, especially in the big woods, that's one of my hardest things to conquer is patience because I'm not a patient person. And but you got to have patience in situations. Obviously, if you're a sitter, maybe you're not going to, if you sit on one of them signposts, you may not see another deer for a week, but you might see that monster buck come ambling by. You know, got to be patient about it. Got to have patience when you're tracking or still hunting, whatever it is. If you're patient enough, things will happen, you know. And persistence is really the most important one. You know, you can talk about everything else, but if you don't persist with it, give up, quit, that's what he was talking about. You know, I hear these stories, you know, talk to 100 guys, you know, the buck crossed the stream, I couldn't get across. I don't know, we went up over this mountain, it got too steep, you know, whatever it was, giving up on the track. And I think if you're going to be a tracker, you've got to have persistence. Because, yeah, it'd be nice to get on the track and an hour later you catch up to them and, yeah, everything's great. It does happen once in a while. Never to me, but it happens to some people because I've heard the stories. But you got to stick with them. You know, you got to stick with them. And part of that sticking with them and that persistence will go back to if you're comfortable in the woods, right? If you're not comfortable in the woods, you won't be persistent anyway. But, you know, there's a lot of times that, you know, you might have to work out a track. You might have to sort through tracks. Whatever it is you're doing, persist at it. Don't give up. Anybody ever track a buck and lose the track? A lot of hands. Where'd it go? Did you lose it, or did you just give up on it, really? Not trying to poke fun, but really you gave up on it. There was some reason that you couldn't figure it out or didn't want to figure it out. You know, it went someplace you didn't want, or whatever it is. Not picking on you again, but the track is there somewhere. Maybe you just need to get a little more experience to figure out how to sort through it, see where it went. It got mixed in with a bunch of other tracks, whatever it is. But either the buck is right there or he went out somewhere. You know what I mean? Stick with that. Make a bigger circle. Just keep searching. It went somewhere. I think tracking, that's the biggest one with things, is just people don't persist on it. But if you apply those, I think you'll find if you talk to any of the hunters that you know that really you seem to, you know, they're in every local town, kind of the local legends that seem to get a deer every year. If you talk to them, I think you'll find that's what they have going for them. All right, catch me if you can. Pretty good track right there. I put that in there because if you do all that stuff, you can catch them, right? You got to stay with it. That's a particularly big track. Ones I like to find. That knife there is 8 inches long, I guess. I call these the old square-toed tracks. The toes don't come together anymore. They're the old bucks. Their feet are sprung out. Stick with it. Learn your stuff. You'll catch up to them. And just to add something to that, you can go to these seminars, read all the books you want and the articles, but if you don't apply it, it's not going to mean anything, right? You've got to go out and experience. You've got to go out and you've got to feel that track to see how old it might be. Maybe there's some ice in it. You've got to get that experience to get it. It's just theory until then, right? Good theory. Okay, you think you can find me? Probably can. Same thing. Just stick with it. Stick with it. I tell people all the time, it took me, when I started hunting up north 30 years ago, I was 8 years before I killed a buck over 200. You know, that was always a standard, you know, still is really. You know, everybody thinks about that and dreams about it. And it happened that easy. I floundered around and chased them and tracked them and did whatever. And 8 years later, I've killed a few smaller ones in between there, you know, 150, 180 pounds, but it took me 8 years. And then when I did, it was almost like breaking through, you know, and then the next, I don't know how many years, I killed one every year. It just all of a sudden, I call it, you got to pay that price, right? You got to push through and push through and push through. But I guarantee all of you, once you do that and you get it, it's going to be there. It came together. It's almost like a sigh of relief, I think, or something, like you finally did it, you know. And it gets easier. But it never will if you don't keep doing it. Don't give up on it. And that's part of this. It's the mind game. Because about 90% of it's right in your mind, right? When you get in that woods. Again, I'll go back to you can talk yourself out of most anything. You get on a track, you can say, geez, I don't know as I'll ever catch them or whatever, and maybe you've been on a track, or maybe you've just been hunting through the woods for 2 days or 3 days. You haven't even seen a deer. Guess what you do? You start letting your guard down, right? You start telling yourself, there ain't no deer here. I ain't going to see nothing. Whatever it is, don't do that. If you've got the sign there, you know there's deer there, you're hunting around with this deer, there's always a chance. We always, up at my lodge, we always say, the last minute of Saturday or the last day of your hunt is the same as the first minute of the first day. Odds are the same, right? Nothing changes. How many guys you know throw in the towel? They don't hunt, they're going hunt for a 6-day hunt for a week, say. They ain't going to go out on Saturday, they're going to go home. A lot of people do. I see it all the time. What's wrong with Saturday? You know, I mean, or the last day. It's the same as the first. A lot of good deer have been killed on the last day. I remember one year, not deer, but in bear season, we was having a rough week. You know, we was trickling along, 1 or 2 bears a night. And the guys were getting discouraged, the ones that hadn't seen any. And I had to talk a couple of them get on that stand Saturday night. We killed 3 bears Saturday night, all over 200. The last night, just it. You got to stay with it. Cooling that down here, Chris? Okay, yeah. He's keeping me on track even. I was trying to think of what's next. Okay, the next thing is be the best hunter you can be. You don't have to be like me. You don't have to be like anybody else. It's be the best hunter you can be, right? It's not about me. It's not about Shane or Lanny or anybody else that are good deer hunters. It's about be the best you can be. Everybody's got limitations, capabilities, whatever it is. You don't have to try to be like somebody else. You just have to be the best at what you can be, however you want to hunt, right? Yeah, just be the best hunter you can be. If you're the best hunter you can be, it's still going to pay off for you, okay? So do what it's got to take to get the knowledge and the experience you need to do for how you want to hunt. I don't care if you want to be a sitter, that's great. Be the best sitter you can be. Be patient. Find the best place, whatever it is for you, okay? There's just too many people that I think get caught up in the celebrity status now and think they got to be like that or kill a buck like that. You don't have to. You know, decide what you want to kill for a buck. It's fine. If it's a spike horn, It's fine, especially in the big woods. I'm going to tell you something. There's more accomplishment in shooting a yearling buck in the big woods nowadays, especially, than there is one of them 150 class bucks out and pick your state. I'm telling you, there's more of an accomplishment in doing that, right? There just is. So don't worry, don't get wrapped up in all the other stuff. It's you. And Kevin there, one of the new pro staff guys, will introduce you there, but he come up with a saying, him and one of the other guys, Lee, what is it, Kev?
It ain't about the rack, it's about the track.
That's right. It ain't about the rack, it's about the track. See, we're going with that statement in the big woods because everybody's about the rack. We're about the weight, right? It's always been about the weight. And we don't get to see racks. I mean, I don't know as I've ever seen a buck like in the fall or the summer or something say, hey, geez, I want to get that buck. I never got one of those bucks. Just, you don't get to see them like that in the woods, in the big woods. You hunt the big track, you take the rack you get with it. Sometimes you get a bonus and sometimes you don't. Shot a lot of big bucks with mediocre racks. Didn't matter though. Old mature buck, it's good. Oh, here they are. Here's some of it. We started the pro staff this year because me and Chris realized there's just no way we can get footage we need to kind of teach people and show you what's going on. So we got some new guys. Well, they ain't new guys, but most of them have guided for me or good friends or whatever with good experienced hunters we took on and formed a pro staff. Now they're going to try to go out, see what they can do and get some footage and all that. And they've got some already, and but lots of experience. But if you check it out on our website there, you might find someone you relate to more than me, because I understand everybody don't relate to me, you know. But there's going to be somebody I bet you can. They're going to start writing some things and their stories and experiences and maybe their tips or whatever. Hey, they do stuff I don't do, you know. Everybody does some different things. I shot that buck. He was standing down in the thick whips down in the, you're going to see it, but I could only see his head. I caught up to him and I could see his head looking back, and I had to shoot through almost 50 yards of brush. And I'm thinking, oh boy, I'm going to try it anyway, because I figured I'm going to get one more chance if the bullet don't get there. But I had them, I've always used them core locks, you know, 180 grain round nose, and I centered it up and fired, and he jumped back, you know, you never know. He'd turn and jump back, and I hit him again on the other side. I didn't know I hit him the first time, but I did. Took one more jump. He was disappearing. I fired again. It was like magic almost. 3 shots, boom, boom. It sounded like that, boom, 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 like that. And I hit him both times. I did hit him the first time. That core lock got right down through there, and it broke this shoulder, and when he jumped back, I hit him on that shoulder, and I don't know how he made the third jump because both shoulders were broke. But the third shot, I thought he was going down over the hill, but he was just face planting. I think that third one just shot right over. But so anyway, be familiar with it and use the gun you need for what you're doing. If you're going to be a sitter, you don't probably necessarily need a pump gun with peep sights, but maybe you guys use your 700 Remingtons or whatever. If you don't, that's a good gun for that. If you like a scope, I'm not trying to get everybody to the cause or shoot a 7600 carbine, but you know, I've had good luck with it. For the way I hunt, it works good. And you'll note most of the guys that track have been doing it for years, like the Benoits. That's what they use too. There must be a reason, right? Yeah, sure, it works good. Yeah, doesn't fail you. So anyways, same thing with them core lock bullets. I mean, people try to, hey, you reload, or, you know, try this or try, you know, I had good luck, you know, that's what I got to stick with it, you know. Okay, there he is up on my new rig. I just restored that. Ram charge is almost 30 years old. It's an 82. Yeah, it's pretty nice, huh? We didn't block out that license number there, Chris. What's up with that? And, yeah, okay, write it down. Yeah, it's a gray ghost. Catch me if you can. Yeah. Who's next? There's Mike. Where you at, Mike? There's Mike. How about that buck, huh? 216 in muzzleloader season. Nice buck. Probably, we figured it'd go 250 or so earlier. You know, he's late season. And Mike don't get to hunt much, but he hunts with some of these Vermont guys here, come over and hunt with him muzzleloader season out in the remote camp. There's Kev. Where you at, Kev? Kev's a new cameraman, I guess. He's running the back there. There's Kev's buck. If you want to see the rack, it's still out in his truck. And there's Lee Libby. Lee's from Maine. He guides for me some and cuts wood. You was with him, Kev? No. Was you with Lee? Yeah. Yeah, Kev filmed Lee shooting this one, I guess. Tracking it in a snowstorm. Lee didn't have much time to hunt. He's a carpenter, and he talked his boss into a few days off once in a while when it was snowing. I guess he finally told him, if there's snowing in the morning, don't count on me coming in. And Lee Shands, some of you know Lee. He actually did a little guiding for me last year. He's got his own guide service too. He goes to Ontario with us. He shot that one up in Ontario. You can see he's got his shirt sleeves on. It was about 70 that day. I think it was a little over 200, but not that big of a buck. And here's Chris doing his part to help to keep the Rhode Island population down. They get plenty of tags down there. Yeah, Chris did his part, last week? Last week or so, he come up, we was doing some stuff, putting this presentation together and some film stuff, and I had just found a deer out on the lake down the end of the road. The coyotes had just killed it. It was pretty well eaten up. And I said, we got to get down there and look. Went down in the morning. There was a coyote already on it, but the ravens spooked him before we could get a whack at him. So I went back over in the afternoon, and I sent Chris over to there, and I went up to my coyote bait up the lake, and there was a coyote out there when he walked over. He shot that one at like 175 yards offhand, did a good job, and then he sat down. He shot 3 more times to finish it off. I think maybe he got caught up in the moment. He forgot he only had 5. I had 10 shells. I give him 5, and I took 5. He sat down on the log by the bait, and 3 more coyotes come about a half an hour later, and he shot one of them, and the other 2 took off. He's got no more shells, but. So he saved a few bucks, because that's what happens. Yeah, they do some awful damage in the winter, or they can. Actually, this winter's pretty good. The snow's not that deep, but they're always going to get some. But we're having a good winter. Okay. This is a new fanny pack I designed. Couldn't find a good one. Said we're going to make one. So we made one. It's over there. Maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't, but I kind of like it. Some people think it's too big, but we might end up making a smaller one. But it's wool, it's lined, works good. What's that?
Put a hind quarter in it?
You pretty near put a hind quarter in it. Yeah. I was tickled I could at least put my shirt in it anyway. Rolled my shirt up and put it in that day I was tracking that buck. Oh, that's something we come out with this year if you need a pack. And then we've probably seen it over at the booth. We got our limited edition carbine out. Remington helped us get that going, that project. It was a pretty big project, and got some gold on it, and our logo there in the stock too, and had the peep sights put on. I had so many guys wanting to know what I was using, and they want to set up just like that for one reason or another. But nowadays, the guns are made with that high comb stock, because most people are using scopes. So you'd have to get a low comb stock, buy that, put the sights on. So we had this one made. This is an older gun we took the picture of, but it's got the low stock. Peep sights were already on it. A little fancy gold. It's even got my signature in it. So we've 45 left. It's only 100. Going, gone. It's been out 2 weeks, and we've got 55 of them is gone.
All 30-06s?
They're all lot 6. That's what they make in the carbine, yeah. And that's the website. While we're waiting for that to cool down, I'm going to play Santa Claus. Okay. Got a couple of DVDs I want to give away. A little goodwill here to spread around. A couple of tracking guides. Who's the oldest the most seasoned citizen here I'd like to give something to, if you'll admit it. What do you got? Yep.
71.
Anybody beat that? What's your age? 75. Anybody want to beat that? We might have to get IDs out. This is hot stuff here. All right. You want a tracking guide or a DVD? Take your pick. You did. I hope you enjoy that book.
And I took notes too.
You took notes?
I took notes.
I didn't see you taking any notes in here.
I was.
What do you want?
Oh, I'll take this. Thank you.
Okay, I'm telling you, the tracking guide's a better deal. You can lug it with you. You can't take that in the woods with you. You go ahead. Okay. I got a lot of kids here. I want to give something to one of the young fellas here, the young girls. Who is the youngest hunter? You're not just sitting here with your parents. You actually get out there and do it. I know you. I see some that are too young to probably to hunt, but they get out there. How old are you? 11. How old are you? 11. Oh, I got a tie. We got a chipmunk. Well, that's okay. He gets out in the woods. How old are you? 8. We got an 8-year-old chipmunk hunter. How about you? Can't hear you. 11. We got an 8-year-old chipmunk hunter. Anybody younger than that hunts? Or gets out in the woods at least with mom or dad or somebody? No? Okay. What do you want? DVD? Tracking guide? You want a tracking guide? Okay. That's a good choice because you can carry that in your pocket, and when you're on that track, you might say, gee, I can't remember what I'm supposed to do. That's after you read the books. And you just flip that open, and you'll find out. Okay, it works every time. If it did, we'd probably sold 1 million of them. All right, I'm going to give a couple more things away, too. Who shot a buck over 200 this year? Nobody? I had some. Yeah, 2 together. Okay. I had somebody last night. Okay. Who shot something over 190? What'd you get? 199. I think you're the winner. That's right. You want a DVD or do you want a tracking guide? Okay, come on down and get it. Chris will give it to you. Congratulations on that buck. Where'd you shoot it?
Northern border of U.S.
I don't want the GPS coordinates. What state?
Probably right near where you hunt in Ontario.
In Ontario? Yeah, okay, good. Who shot a buck that scored over 150 this year? It ain't about the rack, but we're going to deal with racks here. 140. 130. What do you get?
136.10.
Nice. Anybody beat that? 136.10 pointer. You're going to get a tracking guide. Come get it. When I see you next year, or the next time I see any of you, I want better stories than this. Everybody's going to have, not everybody, but I hope more of you did a bigger buck, or get the buck you want anyway.